So if you're anything like me and you like to record your mountain biking videos, you'll be familiar with these guys. These are GoPros, action cameras. Us mountain bikers, we run them all the time, filming just about anything you can do. There's not much you can't do with one of these, to be perfectly honest, but there are some limitations that these cameras have. For example, the audio. Now, the audio on these GoPros has gotten so much better in the past few years. Technology in these things is kind of incredible, but if you've just got a base GoPro, like I do, what can you do to get the most out of your audio? GoPro offer mic adapters and things like that, shells that you can put around your camera to get microphones, but that's not the most practical for us, because if we've got a helmet on and we've got our GoPros under our visor, on our chin or something like that, having a big bulky microphone around it kind of adds a little bit too much weight, you know? It's heavy, it's awkward, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. So there's a few things that I've learned through using these cameras for as long as I've had, and I'm going to show you some of these little tips and tricks today. Now, first of all, these things. This is a little wind muff for your GoPro. So I got this when I got my, when I was actually running my Hero 4. This little boy, this little bad boy. When I was running that, I had a tiny one that went over that because people were cutting and sticking stuff to your GoPro, and I didn't want to stick little fuzzy things on top of the microphones, because that's the little microphone there. I don't know if the camera's going to focus on that, but that little dot there, that's one of your microphones along with that there. Now what this does, you put your GoPro in it, it's just a sock that goes over it, and that covers all the microphones the same way a wind fuzzy does. Now this is my wind fuzzy for my microphone that's actually on the camera that you're looking at this on, and the audio you're hearing just now, that's from a Rode Video Micro 2, something like that. One of the shotgun mics that sits on top of your hot shoe. That's just the other wind fuzzy that came with it. It does the exact same job as what this little fuzzy thing does that I've just put on my GoPro. Now this thing makes such a difference when it comes to wind noise, cutting that wind noise out to a point where the GoPro's internal wind noise reduction can't do. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to walk you through my camera settings, because the camera settings are probably the next most important thing to get the most out of your audio, because there's a few things that I do in here that makes things easier when we bring it into an editing software like Premiere Pro. Okay, so we're into my settings now. So initial your mode settings I've run them very standard profile for the color. I don't use HDR or log. I feel like the GoPro log is it's a bit difficult to grade compared to the S-Log3 that I've got in my Sony, and the HDR, it just adds a bit too much. But the standard I find is just a nice level for the color profile where I can bring even more out in lumetri color. Framing, 16:9, I don't run anything else. You might want to run something different if you're doing vertical or things like that, but there's a few different things you can do. But that's got nothing to do with audio. Resolution, frame rate, 4K 24. I run Hyperview as my lens, because even wider makes things look more dramatic and shit. Hyper smooth on, I don't usually run any more than that. On just works, and it doesn't have to worry about adjusting your exposure too much and slowing down your shutter speed to be able to stabilize it to a point that it just looks like a fucking stop motion video, you know. Now approaching motion blur, I've got an auto because on the Hero 13 Black, which is what this is, I run ND filters. Currently just running an ND4 on it. But you've got from 4 all the way to 64, just depending on how bright the situation is you're shooting. ND filters have saved my life in certain situations. You can turn raw audio on. I don't, because the raw audio in Premiere Pro is actually pretty damn good. Like I run them separated, and I can do whatever I want to that, and I can basically crank up the quality out of just that base audio without having to do anything else. Wind reduction I want off. Audio tuning, standard. Do not touch anything else on that, because if you leave the camera to make decisions for you, then that gives you less that you can do in your editing software. Run everything as you want it so that you can change it in post. That goes for even your bit rates and your bit depth. Sweet. In terms of camera settings, there's not really much else that I do for audio side of things. The audio, as long as I leave everything as bog standard as possible, I can pull the rest out in post. So now what we're going to do we're going to jump into editing software and I'm going to actually show you the things that I do to the audio to try and pull that little bit more pizzazz out of it. We are in Premiere Pro now. We're going to talk through the editing side of things to bring out that little bit of pop in your audio now. So there's a few things that you were going to want to add to your audio timeline. Now, as you can see, I've got my, in my presets here, I've got my pre-made ones, but we're going to start from scratch because presets are cheating. So the first thing you're going to want to get is your graphic equalizer, but I use the 30 band one. Now the 30 band one just gives you the most range to be able to do things with, so we're just going to drag that onto our timeline. Next is going to be the hard limit. Now what this is going to do is this basically gives, it's like a gate, allows us to open and close when we want the peak in to be squished or when we don't want it to be squished. Then lastly, the last one is a parametric equalizer, and it basically allows us to get a nice, like a nice smooth flow. Imagine it like an S-curve in a tone curve if you're editing photos or something like that. Now, what we're going to do is in each of these, I have to reference mine because I don't actually know the numbers off the top of my head, but what we're going to do is we're basically going to taper up from the left and up from the right to the middle. And I always start from the left as well, so we're going to initially bring that down to -24. Now, this is basically just going to mute all of the lowest end stuff. So the low end here is your low hertz and the high end is your kilohertz. We want the low to taper up the way, so 24, and we're going to go 24 again at the 40 hertz, -24, perfect, and then at 50, we're going to start the taper now. So we're going to go and put -16 now, and then lastly, second to last, -12, and then lastly, -6. Now, that is our taper on the left done. We're going to just mirror that on the other side now. -24, and then -24 again, then -16, -12, then -6. So that is our taper on that side now done. So hard limit now. So hard limit, we're basically going to leave almost everything as default, except we're going to go to a preset and basically set it as -6. Now, what that does is, you see on the right hand side, we've got our peaking there. On our waveform, basically if something gets too loud, it'll put a little red light on there, and that'll tell us that it's a bit too loud. So what the hard limit does is it brings it down, like in a histogram here. What we're doing is we're going to squish the top and squish the bottom to try and eliminate that. So I just set it at my default -6 decibels, and that does that all over, just like that, easy peasy. Lastly, parametric equalizer. Now, the way to think of this is like your tone curves in Lightroom. Straight away, vocal enhancer, that is my first go-to, because what that does is it gives me a nice baseline to start with, gives everything a nice smooth curve, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ever so slightly adjust the lows and the highs just to try and bring everything a little bit tighter together. I don't like an open sounding GoPro or open sounding microphone. I like just a sharp, attacking sounding one. So we're gonna so I go I go 69 hertz, and then 113 hertz by 22.8 decibels on the next one up. Leave these middle two. The middle two are they can get to fuck. I do not touch those two. 291, that is about to change. 354 and -2.7 decibels this time. Not going to touch 3200 hertz because 3200 is pretty bang on. Then we're going to change 128,000 hertz down, 12,800 hertz, I cannot read, down to 13,376 hertz, just to get a very bang on one there. But I'm just following my presets because I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. So this is just what when I was fanning around trying to get it sorted, this is just what I done. These are just what I landed on, so I'm just copying my previous ones because I can't remember the numbers. But what we're going to do is we are going to now go through, turn all of these off, and then I'm going to play this video for you so you can hear what it sounds like with nothing on it. Lovely jubbly. Now we're going to turn on our hard limit as well. We're going to turn that on, and then we're going to turn on our bypass as well, and let's just let it play through with absolutely everything on it. Whoa! Whoa! Oops! What? Sweet. There we go. I am happy with that. That sounds pretty damn good to me. Hopefully this has been some sort of a help to you. Now this is obviously using Premiere Pro. You can do this on a lot of different editing softwares, even on mobile. I believe it's called LumaFusion. LumaFusion, mobile editing software. You can tune your EQ and all that on that software. It's good, it's cheap, and it's what I used to use before I upgraded to Premiere Pro. But it takes a lot of fine tuning. Just spend some time with your camera, mess around with the EQ and find something that works good for you. Just having that base level understanding of what everything does is how, I mean, that's all I needed to be able to learn how to use it, and it does the job for me. And then once you've done it, save them as a preset so you don't have to go through and relearn everything you have to do. So it's just there and you can just drag and drop and it's done, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But yeah, so hopefully this was some help to you. Gives you a little insight into what goes into these videos and what allows me to have my footage the way I have it. But for now, stay sick guys, have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Shapow!